Hello one all, it's Stone, chapter 177, Medusa Mechanism, and I just find it really interesting that in this chapter they put so much emphasis on them doing remote work, even here in the stone world. I don't know, remote work certainly isn't a new concept by any means, but it's definitely taken on a more important significance in whatever you want to call our current era right now. Anyway, so Senku's team decides they need to figure out how the Medusa works before they get to the source of it, before they get to the Petri beam, so they can figure out what to do with it when they get there. I am kind of curious about this, because we see this boat with all these people in it looking for the beam tied to the boats, and then Homer is just deep diving to get her hands Medusa. First of all, who are the people on the boat? Are they, like, part of Zeno's team looking for it? Like, is that some order they got from Stanley, and then Homer just, dove in and found it before any of them did, because it was way deeper than they were looking? And secondly, what is the deal with Homura? She's a professional gymnast, she's super flexible, she can basically kill on command, and she's a deep-sea diver. What is her story? What is her life? What is her relationship with yoga? I have so very many questions about her, and I seriously cannot wait to get a flashback just really diving into her backstory more. So anyway, Nikki gets Medusa back, and she manages to convince Brody that they should examine it. It's just love it. They're both, outright lying to each other, like, yeah, I don't trust you. Yeah, I don't trust you. Alright, let's do this. Let's work together. So they begin the autopsy on the petrification beam, and Magma's plan is just, let me hit it with an axe. Thankfully, though, Nikki is ridiculously strong, and is very easily able to knock him unconscious, and then put him in a leg lock, while standing on one leg. That's so terrifying, so truly terrifying. I wonder if those two are going to end up together. I can definitely see it happening. And we see Yuzu working on the Medusa as best she can. Honestly, given her skill with sewing and everything, I expect her to figure something out, just by herself. As she was sitting there like, oh, we need to find someone who figures out. And then Yuzu's like, oh, I actually already figured it out. It's just this, and this. But no, that is not the case. Instead, Ryu explains they need to find a watchmaker. Thankfully, Ryu knows the exact location of the Rolex, or Rodex, headquarters. Something he says, of course, everyone knows where that is. No, only you, Ryu, only you. Which does make a lot of sense. Though, well, I do want to talk about what happens next. I do just want to first mention off what exactly is going on in this panel, the next one. Because it seems like every single one of the bikes has a house now. Not just like a little tent, not like a little thing built up, like a full house on stilts that are, above or behind their respective bikes. Why? How? What is the structure that is being used to hold these things in the air? What are they made of? How are they transporting them? I mean, I understand to a certain degree them needing to stay above the ground so that, they don't get bitten by snakes, spiders, scorpions, whatever's wandering around the desert, but I'm really hoping to get more explanation on exactly how these things were built. Very curious. Anyway, to find the Rodex headquarters, they need a topographic map. Thankfully, though, sweet old Duck Chelsea is able to draw a topographic map from memory. Yay! And I'm not sure if this is more evidence that she is evil or isn't evil, because, she is so good at maps, directions, and all that, and yet she couldn't find Zeno City even with, a year to search for it. On the other hand, though, this definitely does explain how she's able to survive for that year by herself, because, she's able to pick berries. She knew exactly where everything was, literally exactly where everything around her was. So curious, but anyway, this news is enough to wake up Senku from a dead sleep, and he immediately starts working on his next big project, a fax machine. Kinda. And Jen is quickly able to realize why that's such an utterly terrifying concept. Grids upon grids upon grids, and I definitely get the pain that Jen is feeling right here. I am a programmer, and for some of the games made in the past, I've had a 2D map that was basically, I had to program in as just being a bunch of squares, which meant a lot of basically this. Open bracket, 0, close bracket, comma, open bracket, 1, close bracket, comma, for very long stretches of time. It is not fun, it is not pleasant, and just poor Jen. Honestly, with the amount of effort that is being taken into doing all of this, I feel like it would have been faster just to build a fax machine. Or just leave the map behind for Stanley and the rest of them to find so they can pass it on somehow, some way to their team back in Corn City. No, instead we have the hellish work of drawing a topographic map by hand. Poor Yuzu, poor Jen, poor everyone at this point. I am rather curious about what Mr. Manga is saying here, though, about how Osamu Tezuka once had to do something similar to draw manga while remote. Very curious about that. I don't know too much about Osamu Tezuka. A quick Google search told me he's considered the god of manga and the father of anime. So impressive. If anyone knows exactly what that story is, I would definitely love to hear about that. Anyway, they find the CEO, who seems relatively calm about waking up in the Stone Age, and she's able to point them to her best employee. Yay! Good old Joel! And then they wake him up, and I just gotta love their reactions to waking him up with him, being butt naked. Yuzu's looking away, our reporter is like, I really couldn't care less. And Homer is like, ooh. Love that girl, want to hear so much more about her. I mean, later on, the guys comment how he's just, super nervous around girls. It might just be he's nervous around girls who've, seen him naked. And then he has like a whole panic attack because he's trying to figure out where he is and why he's naked and why people are surrounding him. Which, they have to comment on his fairly normal reaction and something we should have seen more of. I mean, seriously, remember when they woke up Sukusa? He's like, what's the situation? And Senku told him, he's like, alright. And then he immediately went and beat up all those lions. That is not normal here. Though I am kind of curious about something, Joel seems like an incredibly focused human being. So was he able to stay conscious for those 3,000 years? Could he have been revived with just the basic revival fluid instead of, Senku's deluxe revival fluid? I'm not sure about that. I'm very curious. Also, I just really need to take a moment to appreciate his outfits. This actually had to be pointed out to me by someone on the Reddit page, which I feel so awful about, but please, if you haven't noticed it yet, just look at Joel for a few seconds. And just, do you see it? Do you see it? The man is a clock. The man is a freaking clock! There was a 3 on his left shoulder, a 6 on his stomach, a 9 on his right shoulder, and his 2 hairs form a 12. His entire outfit, his entire body is a clock, and I freaking love it! Also, he's a jerk, but whatever. I do like the fact they managed to make himself a watch right after being revived. I do just love that, the first thing he did after being revived, besides making a clock-themed outfit for himself that makes him look like a supervillain, is building himself a watch. I so get where he's coming from with this. I used to always wear a watch, before the age of the iPhone, when I could just look at it instead. I wear them constantly. I would always feel anxious and just panicky if I did not know what the exact time was. So definitely get where he's coming from there. But anyway, then they have him look at the petrification device, and his analysis is basically, this isn't from any science known to the 21st century, which, interesting? I mean, that's definitely been said before, but what exactly does that mean? Are they just saying, that whoever invented this somehow managed to take huge leaps and steps through science and technology and created something different, something beyond what anyone else could imagine? Or is he saying this literally is not from the 21st century? I mean, time travel has definitely been thrown around a lot in the past. Future Senku from the future came back in time and did all this to save the Earth from pollution or whatever. Or aliens did it. And while Joel's not really able to comprehend a whole lot about exactly how this thing works, he's fairly certain that it was created by a 3D printer. That's the only way they could make parts, that precise and that small with a machine. And he even found the battery source, a blackened diamond. I actually did end up looking this up. Diamond battery is actually a real thing, kinda. It's a type of nuclear battery that's more prototype, more in the theorizing stage right now, with the problem being that it produces very little power. But the benefit of it is that it has an incredibly long shelf life, so it can produce a very little bit of power for a very, very long time. Which, makes a lot of sense given that we're 3,000 years into the future, and it's still up and running. And then Joel decides to try the machine out himself by petrifying himself with a machine that he does not understand, that had just recently been shot by a bullet and which he removed several pieces from. Yeah, not a great idea, but he looks super excited about it and super happy that it actually seems to be working for him. Yay! Honestly, probably should have seen this coming because Joel did not have any crack marks on his entire body as best I can tell, so, now his character design won't change at all when they wake him up whenever they find him and realize he petrified himself because he is an idiot. This could actually lead to something very interesting, though, if the device disappears after this. If after he petrifies himself, someone comes in, sees it, and steals it, and the next day, Brody and Nikki come in to check on him, and they realize he's turned to stone and the device is missing. That could definitely lead to a very interesting storyline moving forward. They're trying to figure out who has the device, what they're going to use it for, what they're planning, what they're plotting. I mean, it could be someone as simple as Magma, but it could also be, someone on Zeno's team who's looking to start a coup, looking to take all the power for himself now that Zeno and Stanley are gone. Possibly. But if that doesn't happen, they manage to keep the device. Hopefully they can start figuring out exactly how it works, start figuring out some of its components, how it operates, what it was designed for, things like that. So that when Senku eventually does get to the original Medusa, the original Petra Beam, he's able to look at the device and figure something out, figure out how to fix it, repair it, or just, learn more about it, because maybe this version of it will be slightly bigger, slightly different from the one that they found on Treasure Island. Very, very curious. But yeah, please let me know all this down below. What do you think of this chapter? It felt kind of messy to me, like they kept jumping from point to point, from, Stanley and the team trying to fix their plane, to Senku trying to figure out the Medusa, to them talking about watch factories, to them doing a fax machine, to them waking up Joel, to Joel being petrified. This felt like it could have been several chapters. They kind of just rushed into one. I'm still really curious about the whole campsite they set up, because those are not simple housing. Those are fairly complex huts that are, suspended like 5 feet in the air. So many questions about all of that, but please leave all this down below. Be sure to like, subscribe to this video, and until then,